By way of brief introduction, Andy is the Vice Provost of Enrollment and Management at the University of Georgia, and he has 20 years of experience in college admissions and supervises the Office of Undergraduate Admissions and the Office of Student Financial Aid. And maybe you have more responsibilities, Andy, than that. But I know that the University of Georgia has been a terrific place for you and for your family. And we're so excited about hearing about admissions there and in the larger context. We're grateful to you for sharing your thoughts with us and what it looks like inside the admissions office. So for everyone watching, please let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to know, and put any questions you're going to have in the chat. Andy's going to speak to us for a few minutes about the changing demographics around college admissions and what it looks like from the admissions office. And then we're going to have time for your questions. So just put them in the chat. Welcome, Andy, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I have a slide deck to walk through to hopefully organize my thoughts a little bit and make good use of our time. So I am going to load up. All right. Hopefully you all can see this. So my hope for our time tonight is to give you a talk for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to put you in the chair of the admissions officer. I know a lot of anxiety can happen around the college admissions process. And so I'm going to give you the chance to look at some files, and we'll walk through each of one of those files and then get to the point where we're actually making some admissions decisions. So I'm going to hopefully keep my comments brief, and then we'll focus mostly on the Q&A to make sure that we get your questions answered. Like Lisa said, I'm Andy Borst. I'm the Vice Provost for Enrollment Management at the University of Georgia. I've been at UGA for about 2 years. My family and I moved to Georgia from the University of Illinois, where I was the Director of Admissions for 7 years. I am also a parent. I have a rising 9th grader and a rising 6th grader. In fact, my 9th grader is in Europe right now with his class, and so I had the little bit of sadness sending him off and hoping for a little bit more of sadness from him. But he was like, "Bye, Dad. All right, I'll see you later." So I'm looking forward to him coming back in and coming back to the United States and showing me his pictures. But it's been a great experience at UGA. The South has been all of the welcoming that I had hoped for our family, but it's been a wonderful experience. All right, let's get off and running. You may have heard about the demographic cliff. This is what our most recent data shows us about what's going to happen. And I show you this to hopefully calm your anxiety about what the future is going to hold for college admissions. You might have heard from a neighbor or a friend about how difficult it is and how competitive it is. You hear stories of students with really great GPAs and really great test scores being denied to institutions. You even see lawsuits related to it. But from this point forward, the number of high school graduates in the United States is going to go down. Notice that it doesn't look like a cliff. It looks like a slow decline, but it does go down. But it also just kind of returns to where we were at in the 2010 timeline. So while we had been increasing, 2026 will be the first year where that number goes down, and then it'll go down again and down again and down again. And so it's the number of public high school graduates, the number of private high school graduates, both which will decrease. But there's a little bit more nuance to that I'll explain here in a minute. You may have also heard that lots of students are wanting to go to school in the South, and it hurts my heart a little bit to show you this graphic, but it is a story within the Wall Street Journal that highlights the technical college that's on Grand Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia Institute of Technology, who's one of our main competitors. But students are choosing to go towards schools within the South for various reasons, weather being one, great social climate is another, academics is another, but that's only part of the story. Are students going from the Northeast and the Midwest and the West to the South? Yes. However, this is a chart of what demographics are shifting throughout the United States. I'll give you a minute to find your state. And not only are we seeing college migration across states, but we're also seeing family migration across states. So this is what number of high school graduates are projected to be by state over the course of the next 15 years. I want to draw your attention to some of our more populous states. Look at California, minus 29%, Illinois, minus 32%, New York, minus 27%. A lot of those individuals are moving to states that you can plug in your rationale for it, but we are seeing Californians move to Texas. We're seeing Midwesterners move to Tennessee, where you see a 15% increase. We're seeing New York, New Jersey move to South Carolina, Florida, where you see bigger percent increases. And so not only are students coming to the South for college, families are moving to the South for various reasons. So what that does is that it's shifting where high school graduates are going to be, which then in turn drives college enrollment strategy. And so my goal for tonight is to put you in the minds of an admissions officer. And as I'm looking at this, I also see patterns of behavior happening within institutions, especially within large Big Ten institutions that tend to be high demand, University of Illinois, Ohio State, Minnesota, Penn State, Wisconsin, all really ramping up the size of their first year class. Now, imagine you're an institution and you're increasing the size of your freshman class. You're building up residence halls to accommodate. You're building up dining halls to accommodate. You're adding parking spaces. You're adding faculty to teach those students. Once those institutions cross a threshold of going from 6,000 students to 7,000 students in their freshman class, or some have above 10,000, Purdue crossing that threshold in the last couple of years, it's kind of impossible to back off of that. Institutions build up their infrastructure to serve larger institutions. All of this to say is that it is going to be a buyer's market. If you have a rising senior, even if you have a rising fourth grader, that is going to make the college admissions process, because of demographic shifts and who goes where and where those individuals are going to be living and graduating high school from. Hopefully that will take some of the pressure off of what we're seeing in dwindling admit rates over the course of time. So now with a little bit of information about what's happening within the competition market of institutions, I want to give you an example of what a college admissions process looks like from the admissions side of the desk. So you're not admitting a class, just offering a spot in your class and knowing that everyone will come. They won't all come. So there's three different groupings. Enrolled students are the red. In order to enroll a class of roughly 6,200 new freshmen at the University of Georgia, we have to admit about 16,000. So an admit rate of about 35%. But our yield rate of that group is also about 35%. So I have to admit more students that will enroll. And then our applicant pool is roughly about 40,000 students. So in the context of what our football stadium looks like, we're going to have more students apply. We're only going to be able to admit a portion of them, and that we will only enroll a smaller portion of them. That means that we're going to have to turn away some really great students. And unfortunately, I'm going to give you that experience here tonight, because it's not always as clear cut as who has the highest GPA, who has the highest ACT, and that's how we make the admissions decision. So let's look at some files. In order to kind of prep you for what holistic review looks like, this is how we train our reviewers. So there's an academic achievement review. There's a co-curricular review. Our institution is trying to enroll 80% in-state students, 20% students coming from not Georgia. So that's inclusive of international students as well as students throughout the United States. So when we do the academic achievement, we are looking for students. How did they demonstrate academic success across their 4 years in high school? How has each student challenged themselves? So it's not enough just to get A's. We want to see that students are preparing themselves for college-level work, particularly in core academic areas of math, science, English, social science, and world languages, and that each student has demonstrated maturity, work ethic, and overcoming serious obstacles. We want to know that they are ready to perform once they're on our campus. The academic achievement is one portion. Test scores are a part of it at the University of Georgia. We are test required. GPA is a part of it, although I'll talk a little bit more about what the GPA tells us here in a minute. But then there's also co-curricular review. So what's happening outside of the classroom in the high school for a student? Has the student been an active member of their community? Are they resume building of just popping in and doing activities one at a time, or do they have assistant involvement once they're on campus? So as we're looking at these reviews, pay attention to the depth of involvement and how much time they're spending outside of the classroom in a particular activity. Has the student expressed individualism? That usually comes out in their essays or in their activities, or if they choose to provide us a little bit more information about what's going on in their world. But then do they have individual and creativity and involvement in their essays and writing? And also consider, is the student pursuing creative ideas that align between their academic interests and their co-curricular interests? So if they're interested in engineering, what are they doing to expand their interest in engineering and co-curricular activities? And how has the student conveyed an appreciation for those around them? And how are they going to engage with other students on our campus? So this is what we are looking for, but what we are not looking for We can't consider any factors of legacy status. We do not consider demonstrated interest in any sort of way for residents or non-residents. We can't see race and ethnicity as a part of our application process. Same thing for sex and gender, as well as sexual orientation, as well as the likelihood that a student or family may donate to the university. None of those are a factor in our process. Okay, so now that we've kind of set the stage of how we are going to do review, I have 3 students for us to look at. And I'll kind of walk you through how I would look through these, but I want you to look at this from the lens of, would you admit this student? What stands out to you as a strength? What stands out to you as a weakness for the student, both from an academic sense and from a co-curricular student? So our first student's name is Archie. Archie's interested in mechanical engineering. He has a UGA GPA of a 4.07. That is a recalculated core academic GPA, English, math, science, social science, world language, excluding any sort of elective courses, band, driver's ed. I'm trying to think about what other electives students, physical education might be in there as well. So the student is telling us that they have a 4.25 out of a 4 GPA. But then they also have some B's on their transcript. Some of those are likely in AP classes, resulting in the 4.0. It's oftentimes that we have a student who says, I have X GPA and have Y ACT. What are my chances of being admitted? And that really tells me nothing about how likely a student is to be admitted. It really it's a helpful indicator within a high school, but not necessarily across high schools. And you'll see that as we look at our 3 applicants here. So Archie had a 4.0 in 9th grade, had a 4.0 in 10th grade, but had a little bit of a dip in grades in 11th grade. So a 3.86 GPA in that grade. There is a B in the 9th grade, but that doesn't necessarily align with the 4.0. His best score was a 31 on the ACT. That's a super score, which is the equivalent if your brain thinks an SAT, that's about a 1400 SAT. Now, the bars that we're looking at are the number of AP or rigor classes that Archie took at his high school. So you see 2 ELA, and if you look on the right-hand side, those are Honors American Lit and Honors Literature and Composition. There's 2 rigor units for math. That was AP Stats and AP Calc AB. 2 in science, AP Biology, AP Environmental Science. 2 in sociology, you can see there, world language. So the one world language is Spanish language, but that Archie would have likely needed to take 3 years of language in order to take the AP class in the 4th year. It's really about units, not years when it comes to foreign language. Archie took the most demanding rigor at his school, so 6 AP, IB, or dual enrollment classes. The counselor affirmed that Archie did, in fact, take the most demanding rigor for the school. So we double check that from the student as well as from the counselor. We know that Archie is coming from New Day School. This is a fictitious student. It is a composite of multiple of our applicants, but just to give a name for a school, New Day offers a whole lot of AP. Archie only took, I'll use air quotes here, only took 6 AP courses. But you see at the bottom, that the students at New Day can only take 6 rigor units. So he took advantage of all of the courses that were available at his school. And he has a senior class size of 137. So that was the academic side. Now let's look at the co-curricular side. So Archie was a Boy Scout, currently doing an Eagle project, varsity soccer, and was a captain. Interesting that it was 9th grade and 10th grade. Uh-oh, my internet connection's unstable. Give a minute to catch back up here.
It's okay, Andy.
So
we can see you.
Archie, okay. So varsity soccer, but interesting that he was only in 9th and 10th grade and was a captain. So I would want to know, why did he not continue in soccer in 11th and 12th? Did beta club for 9th and 10th. It was a service chair. So some of this activities is 9th and 10th. Did National Honor Society for 11th and 12th. Worked summer camps, and then did broadcasting club in 10th and 11th. Senior leader overseeing school's new programs. So was fairly engaged in some activities that take some commitment. Boy Scouts seem to have been the biggest amount of time, as well as the summer camp. So it's telling us a little bit about how he spent his time. Next, we're looking at the counselor teacher recommendation. So some schools won't look at this at all. Some won't take it. I used to be in the camp of, I don't want to see the counselor recommendation, but I have come to appreciate the counselor recommendation and telling me a little bit more about the student that maybe the student didn't share with me. But Archie, the counselor notes that Archie's an outstanding leader. Academic record speaks for himself. We saw that in strong grades as well as taking part of rigor. is an Eagle Scout, engaging frequently with senior citizens, which that aligns with its project. Trying to be the most difficult members of the senior center, and they all sang his praises by the end of the project. Archie will be sorely missed on his campus. So it sounds like the counselor knew who this student was, and had a lot of positive things to say. And then we get into the essay. So I think the nature of the value of the essay is shifting within college admissions. So I just wanted to give you an example of what an essay could look like. It's Christmas morning. I'm asleep in a beautiful princess bed adorned with flowers, puffy pink willow pillows. I've always slept with Wheeze on Christmas Eve. Now let me make a little sense of this. Wheeze is my little sister, her nickname. Well, always have a slumber party in her room on Christmas Eve, seeing her experience the magic of Christmas never gets old, even when she's kicking me and stealing the sheets in the 2 in the morning. So right off the bat in the first 2 paragraphs, I really haven't learned anything about the student. I know that he has a close connection with his sister, but he's not really telling me anything about him. I can't help but feel the same things that she does when she first wakes up and realizes what day it is. Then comes the mad dash downstairs to see what fun toys Santa left under the tree. Once all the presents are open, Weeze always seems to have more fun playing with the boxes than again, I'm hearing a lot about Weeze, but not necessarily anything about Archie. She taught me how to be more appreciative of the people around me, the things around me. Wow, here I am, one of the greatest presents of all, my adopted sister. Didn't tell us a lot about him or his interests in mechanical engineering or his Eagle Scout project, but definitely has a close connection with his sister. So not the full picture of who this student is. It's as much as Archie could tell us within the confines of the Common App. This isn't everything. It's just what the box of the process allows us to look at. So we evaluate each applicant on a score for their academics and then their co-curricular. And then we're going to move on to the next applicant because we have to get through 40,000 applications over the course of a very short time window. So next I'm going to move on to our second student. Second student happens to be named Georgia. We do have a fair amount of students that are named Georgia. That's not an advantage at UGA, but we do get a kick out of tracking the number of students named Georgia. Georgia's interested in undergraduate business, has a 4.0 GPA, self-reported a GPA of 101.92 out of 100. So all A's, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Best score was a 13.7, 1370 SAT, a 30 ACT, so 1 point below where Archie was at. Very demanding rigor, took 4 APs, IB or dual enrollment. Counselor confirmed that it was very demanding. And it looks like it was a rigor class in English, math, social science, and 1 in world language. So you can see what those courses were. AP English, Lang, statistics, science was on level, microeconomics, which was probably where the interest in business came from, AP Spanish and world literature. So here's where I think is the interesting thing for Georgia. Goes to Redfern, number of APs, AP, IB, dual enrollment, there's 11 offerings, but there's no rigor unit. So there was opportunities for Georgia to take more rigor, and I'll use air quotes here again, took only 4. That's not necessarily a negative because she did in fact challenge herself with AP classes. There's not an advantage of AP statistics or AP calculus when it comes to business in our evaluation, but there's a 912 students at her high school taking these AP courses. You're going to guess that there are probably a lot of other students coming from Redfern that did challenge themselves in taking more AP. So while she had great grades, she probably had more opportunity to challenge herself while she's there. Number 1 question I get in every parent event that I've ever done is it better to get A's in regular level classes and take less rigor, or is it better to get B's in higher rigor classes? And the honest answer is for competitive institutions, it's better to take the highest rigor level available at the school and to get A's because that's what the students, the level of competition that we're looking at right now. But that's not for all institutions. There are many, many institutions that have wonderful college campus experiences that will be more than happy to have some challenge, but not all the challenge. Okay, so that we've looked at Georgia's academics. Next, let's look at her co-curricular. Did a mission trip for Dominican Republic, was a TEDx speaker, harmful impact of disposable medical grade plastics. So that was 9th grade. Then 11th grade. So if I'm looking for some sort of sustained involvement, was a Ronald McDonald House volunteer with the family, 9th through 12th. Reading buddy in 10th grade, competitive cheer for 9th and 12th, and diving team for 11th. So now we go to the counselor recommendation. It is not a disadvantage if the counselor just can't submit a letter. This counselor gave us a little bit, but it's not a negative because a lot of counselors, a 300 to 1 student to counselor ratio is on the high side, but there are some counselors that are in the 500 to 600 range. And we understand that counselors may not have the opportunity to write a recommendation letter for all of the students. So it can't be a negative that one was not submitted. Now we're moving on to the writing. Hot, sticky. I actually won't read all of these essays, but I want to give you a chance to read this on your own. Georgia writes about her experience doing her mission trip to the Dominican Republic and then returning from that trip, and then that engaging her interest in learning more about Spanish. So I would want to know more about Georgia's connection between her passion for learning about Spanish and how that connects to her interest in studying business. That's kind of why we have multiple essays, to tease some of those interests out, but does give us a connection between her academic interests, both in high school and how she wants to use those in college. So we've heard about Archie, we've heard about Georgia. Now we're on to Tate. Tate wants computer science. Also has a 4.0. So you have 3 students that have a 4.0 GPA within the range of 4.0. Some of them a little bit ahead, some of them a little bit below, but for the most part around a 4.0. Self-reported a GPA of 96 out of 100. Strong grades in 9th. And then a pretty significant dip in 10th grade. So multiple B's and a C, and then a rebound in 11th grade. A lot of times it is helpful to see that rebound in 11th grade. A big negative red flag is if we see strong in 9th, strong in 10th, and then a dip in 11th, because sometimes it's hard to recover to do well in that 12th grade. But so far concerned about what we're seeing happen in the 10th grade. Best score was a 1310 SAT, 28 ACT. So the lowest of the 3 that we've seen. Not to say that a 28 is low, but you have a 31, a 30, and a 28 so far. Plenty of rigor classes here. AP Lang, AP Lit, and AP Statistics, Calc AB, Calc BC. So took the highest level of rigor among our 3 applicants for math. Science, AP Bio, AP Chemistry. Social Science, AP US History, AP World History. World Language, AP French Language and Culture. So lots of rigor that are here. Most demanding, which was confirmed by the counselor as most demanding. Hillshire Senior High School offers 42 AP, IB, or dual enrollment classes. So a very large number of rigor classes available at the school, as well as honors classes. 400 senior high school students, so fairly large compared to Archie's class. Again, with no rigor limits. So probably took advantage of a lot of the rigor that was there, at least more so than Georgia did, but that 10th grade is concerning so far. Next, we'll look at Tate's co-curriculars. So varsity baseball, captain in 12th, church youth group, student government association, currently running for class president. I'm unsure if avid reader is a club or if he just likes to read in high school. So sometimes the admissions officer doesn't always know what a group definition is. So it helps if you can provide a little bit more background information of this is how I'm spending my time outside of the high school, outside of the classroom. Family responsibilities on weekends, helping watch niece and nephew with sister is working. President of the mentoring club, pairing high school students with kids the local elementary school. Okay, so fairly involved both in athletics, church, student government, leadership opportunities, as well as with family and the working. So 12 hours weekly, 30 hours a week. So the only one of our 3 students that was working. Okay, I want to draw your attention to the counselor recommendation. One of the most resilient students that the counselor has ever worked with would rank Tate in the top 1% of students that ever worked with in 28 years of being a college counselor. So right off the bat, that's pretty high praise. I believe Tate disclosed his brother's death the summer before his 10th grade year. That would probably explain what happened in the 10th grade grades. And it's good to see that I'm unfortunate to see that Tate lost his brother and that the academics slipped in that 10th grade, but good to see that he rebounded into 11th grade. That gives me hope that he would do well once he was on campus. In addition to the death of the oldest sibling, Tate's dad has recently been diagnosed with colon cancer. These would be experiences that are atypical for 17 and 18-year-olds. We have lots of students, either the counselor or the student is disclosing losing a grandparent that they were close to, losing a pet that they were close to. Unfortunately, those are fairly typical experiences for a 17 and 18-year-old, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, all obstacles to overcome. But what I'm looking for in the council recommendation in the writing is what is atypical in order to be considered extenuating circumstances relative to other 17 and 18-year-olds. Next, moving to the essay. So our last applicant, our last essay, Trapped in the Fluorescent Purgatory of Ninth Grade, The Martian. So Tate is talking about the book, The Martian, later into a movie. Going to science the hell out of it, relevant to his computer science interests and problem solving. Every potato he grew, every malfunction he fixed was a victory against overwhelming odds. Again, relating interest in science to resilience and overcoming obstacles. Facing standardized tests and social anxieties, learned a valuable lesson. With enough determination, you can solve any problem, even if it requires growing potatoes on Mars. So one of the challenges that we have is we could probably admit all three. They're all within the range of our middle 50th percentile, but unfortunately, we don't have capacity for all of those students. We don't have, we just don't have the residence hall space. We don't have the dining space. We don't have the parking space to accommodate Archie, Georgia, and Tate. So if you only had to pick one, which one would you pick? And this is where the difficulty comes in, is that I would like multiple of these, if not all of them, to enroll. So it's not necessarily the students that I think about that we're admitting. I worry about the students that we have to say no to. And they always want to know why. What was it? Was it could I have done better on test scores? Should I have had a higher GPA? Did I not take enough rigor? Was it that you had too many computer science students? Was it that my counselor didn't send a recommendation? Was it that I needed more extracurricular activities? Was it that I needed to explain something else in my extenuating circumstances? Was the essay that I poured over again and again and again and had help with editing? Did it need another revision? Was it some other thing? And the truth is, it's never one thing. My hope in going through this process with me tonight is for you to see that it's difficult to pinpoint and that it's never just one thing that makes a decision of who we're going to admit and who we're not going to admit. And that would be true whether we're looking at an Ivy League institution or an institution that has admit rates in like 25% to 35% or 25% to 50%. But there are lots of institutions that admit more than 50%. And what I am seeing, especially as we're seeing more students come and attend institutions in the South, there are some really great undergraduate experiences in the South that have admit rates in the 80 and 90%, that students can not feel that stress about, am I going to get in to this selective intake? Because there are so many good options of institutions that have much higher admit rates. So when we're defining what is merit, and a lot of what we're seeing right now within college admissions is an attack on the process of holistic and wanting to define a process of, well, why don't you just make decisions off of the GPA and the test score and that's it, and ignore everything else? There are reasons why we consider all of these other factors when making an admissions decision. And I wanted to give you a little bit more background about why we do this process. On the left map is what our fall 2025 representation looks like in counties in Georgia. So we hit almost all of the counties in Georgia for students that we admitted for this fall. There are a couple counties that don't have high schools, as well as there are a couple counties that we recruited really hard, but just couldn't get any applicants from, so we couldn't admit anybody from. We did a hypothetical after we had gone through and admitted every student and said, what if we ignored all of the essays? What if we ignored all of the extracurricular activities and we just have a formula score of GPA and test score and we made admissions decisions only using those two factors? And what would happen is that we would not be the University of Georgia. We would be the University of Suburbs of Atlanta, and there would be 31 counties within the state that would not have any students admitted. So we admit using holistic admissions process so that while all of these numbers matter, SAT matters, GPA matters, extracurricular matters, the one number that I don't want to matter or to be a deterministic factor is the zip code or the street number that you grew up on. And I don't want these students to be left out just because of the resources that were available at their school. You see the gray areas of counties that are not represented, but there are also some urban counties, schools that would also have 0 students that are admitted from. But it's not necessarily about representation across the state. It's about students doing well on campus. And a lot of times I hear meritorious admissions processes being aligned with, well, you should just admit the students with the highest test scores. The highest test scores does not necessarily align with the best students. And we see this reflected in our retention data at the University of Georgia. This is the number of Georgia residents only, so excluding the non-residents, by SAT group. This is somewhat of data that we don't necessarily share widely. So I'm showing you what the breakdown is by test score group for our fall 2023 enrolled students. So beyond applicant, beyond admitted, these are students that enrolled on our census date. So you'll still see students that had SAT scores from 1,000 to 1,200. Their retention rate was 96%. Which was the same as the next group up that had 1100s, the same as the group that had 1200s, the same as the group that had 1300s. But once we get into the 1400 range, that's where we start to see our retention rates start to dip. And when we get into the 1500 to 1600 range, which is often where I hear the most complaints of, this student had a 34 ACT, I can't believe that they weren't admitted. Those students are not necessarily our best students. Those tend to also be the students in Algebra 2 or had other parts of their other parts of their application that were lacking. Now, sometimes we're admitting those students because we hope that they would be able to achieve, but I wanted to kind of dispel the myth that the best SAT scores are the best students. If we were to take a more metric-only approach in admissions, that would lead to our retention rate dipping, which would lead to our graduation rates dipping. And the reason that we do a holistic admissions process is certainly not to torture the parents or the students. It's to make sure that we're identifying the students that are most likely to succeed on our campus. Okay, so we went through a lot of content in a very short amount of time. There was a lot of text. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So I will stop there, and I think that we can transition to the Q&A.
Andy, thank you so much for that. I think that's a look at admissions none of us have ever seen before and hugely helpful in explaining so much. And thanks for those 3 profiles. I think parents only see their own kid, and it's very, very useful to look at a range of kids and see why the decisions might be what they are. So we have a lot of questions. I'll get through as many as we can. It's going to be a little bit of a lightning round. Given that you're in a state institution, how can out-of-state students grab the attention of admissions counselors, or are they treated exactly the same?
So I would not say that they are treated exactly the same. Is that most institutions are not using demonstrated interest to make admissions decisions, especially at large public institutions. We're going through a large swath of applicants pools. We're admitting a lot of students. I think the thing that you can do to show interest is to learn the admissions process. I wouldn't necessarily say that that you have to apply early, because we are still admitting a large number of students in both early action and regular decision. But visiting campus certainly helps to get a sense for if that's an institution that you would want to attend. But don't feel like your visit is going to be counted and is added as a plus factor in your application. It's just showing an understanding of the campus and understanding what is your admissions office looking at in their review process.
There are a number of questions, since you just touched on early admissions versus regular admissions, how to think about that. Is it ever a disadvantage to apply early? If you could, do a couple of minutes on how you think about it.
So my answer would be different comparing the University of Illinois to the University of Georgia. So we worked pretty hard at the University of Illinois to have an equal review in both applicant pools, so it didn't matter. At the University of Georgia, we are considering 7th semester, so the first term of your senior year grades. And so if you need more time to recover from that dip in 10th grade and you want to see strong grades in strong rigor classes in the senior year, sometimes it's to your advantage to wait to the regular pool. We also see students that really, they shot their shot for an early decision school that was very competitive and it didn't work out for them. And so then they're like, well, I didn't get an early action, or excuse me, an early decision school. So now I need to apply for a wider swath of schools. And those tend to be some of our stronger students that are in the RD pool.
Okay. What are some of the common mistakes you see students making in their applications?
Assuming that we know the vernacular of a particular high school, I see it often within um, the extracurricular activities of just putting, a code of I did ARB for 4 years. Well, how much time is that, and what is that actual activity? The other error that I see is in essays, in spending too much time in the preamble. A lot of times I'll start reading an essay and have to jump down to the second or third paragraph to start figuring out what the student is talking about. As AI enters into the conversation about the impact on essays or extracurricular activities, as many schools are test optional, that puts that much more focus on the high school transcript. And so the first and most important factor that an admissions officer is going to look at is how did you perform in the classes that you had available to you at your high school. So making sure that you're working with your school counselor, or if you're working with an independent education consultant about what those course selection is going to be, especially that making sure that you pick something that you can continue to succeed in throughout the course of your high school is very, very important. And those conversations start early.
One of the things I heard you saying was that you were looking for students who, in their co-curricular activities, that progressed through something or stayed with something. Can you just elaborate for a moment on that?
Yeah, so sometimes we see students writing an essay or participating in activities thinking that they're trying to impress us. We would much rather see a student participate in something that they actually enjoy and sustain their involvement. I would much rather see a shorter list of activities that have a larger time commitment rather than a longer list of activities where a student is popping in for maybe just a year or a weekend and then immediately jumping out onto something else. Now, it takes some time to figure out what their passions are, so I can imagine that they may not sustain all of their activities, but give me something. Give me one thing that you committed to over the course of your 4 years, and potentially something that you demonstrated leadership in your junior and senior year.
Terrific, thank you. A number of parents are asking how you use AI in the admissions process, or if you're using it in the admissions process.
So as far as I know, the University of North Carolina is the only institution who has openly said that they are using AI to skim and summarize essays. I have not talked to anyone else, including specifically at the University of Georgia, that is using AI as a part of their skim and score essays or co-curricular activity. An SAT, taking a GPA, and then giving a sorting score of how well we think a student is going to perform in college. That is a regression formula that's been around since the 1800s. It's not necessarily AI. One more thing that I wanted to say about AI is that my colleague Rick Clark at Georgia Tech, I think, has a very great advice for students and families, is that it can be a thought partner to see what an essay should look like. So it might be a good starting point for an essay. But right now, the technology, an AI essay is not going to get a student admitted. It didn't tell me anything about that student, similar to, I think it was Archie's essay that talked about his sister, but not about him. I want to hear an essay that's about the student.
Parents are asking about AP scores. Do you look at them? Do you want to see them? What role would they play, particularly if a student has taken some in 10th and 11th grade and have some strong AP scores?
So this answer is different depending on institution. So some institutions will absolutely look at test score, look at AP scores, especially even some test optional schools will look at an AP score instead of looking at an SAT or ACT. So test flexible or submit something to me. Others won't look at an an AP score at all until the student has been admitted, committed to enroll, and then they'll look at the score to see how those courses will then earn credit towards their college degree.
A number of parents are saying that their kids took some of their hardest classes or are planning to take some of their hardest classes in 12th grade, but it doesn't look like they matter that much when we looked through the transcripts just now.
Then I did a poor job of explaining the process because they absolutely matter. Your high school student may say, well, I only need 3 years of math to graduate high school, so I don't need a fourth year of math. They have to take a 4 year of math, fourth year of math. If they want to be competitive for an institution that has a lower admit rate, they need to take a rigorous math class as well as their English, math, science, social science, and foreign language. So not only are we looking for what was their grade performance and what was their rigor, we're looking at their senior year schedule. And so if you took a lot of rigor and then you took your senior year off in rigor, that can also be a pretty negative flag for us.
Okay. This is a question that gets asked so often. And if you have some thoughts you want to share on AP Calculus versus AP Stats, is it comparable? Do you care which one a student takes?
So this is, I could spend another hour on this topic. There are institutions that have said we prefer AP Calculus because of the tracking that happens. It's not necessarily the course content that happens in AP Calculus. It's who gets the opportunity to take AP Calculus. It's the same students that had the opportunity to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And it's the same students that probably performed well on standardized exams in their 6th grade for math. So they are tracked into a rigorous math class, and they would prefer to see that AP Calc class in the senior year. Now, having said that, we're all pivoting from COVID and adjusting to test optional environments. We, as in college admissions at large, UGA is test required, so we still are looking at tests. But we're also starting to see some big differences between students that take AP Stats and AP Calc, and that for some of our curriculum, it matters a lot. Those usually are in engineering fields. So if a student is interested in computer science or mechanical engineering, it would absolutely be my advice to take AP Calc. However, if a student is interested in is interested in business or the humanities or social science, I think those classes are starting to be evaluated on equal footing. What I don't want to see is a student taking beyond Calc BC. So if a student is rushing to take multivariate calculus high school, my engineering faculty are saying, I wish they wouldn't race through these concepts because they don't really understand it when they get to us. Slow down, and I think be Calc ready heading into college, rather than trying to race through those subjects in 7th grade, 8th grade.
Okay, terrific. How would you explain the dip in the high end of SAT scores that you showed us in the data? Do you have any thoughts about why that might be?
Yeah, that just has to do with how many students score a 30 versus how many score 35 on the ACT.
Okay.
So it is just, that's what the distribution curve looks like nationally. So that's what our enrollment curve looks like.
Weighted and unweighted GPAs. Some students look some schools look one way, some schools look a different way. Which way do you look at, and what stands out for you?
So that was my point about, if you tell me your GPA, you really didn't tell me anything about how likely
Perfect.
we are to admit you, because it matters within your school, but it means nothing across schools. Is it a 5-point scale? Is it on a 100-point scale? Like, how much weight is calculated? There is a high school in Illinois that has honors, driver's ed, and driver's physical ed, so that it's huge weight onto their GPA. And so either a school is preferring unweighted, or they have processes such as the self-reported grades to be able to strip out a lot of the weights that high schools put on it. I want to be clear. I am not talking about grade inflation. I am talking about systems of grading that happens at the high school.
Terrific. In terms of picking a major, does it impact an application whether a student is applying undecided or whether they've picked a major and put it on their application?
Illinois, that's an institution that admits by major. because they have a whole lot of computer science students, but would love more agricultural students. It does not matter at all at the University of Georgia. So if we were to admit a student into computer science, they could turn around on the first day of orientation and change into dance. Like they move between majors, so there is not a different review process by major.
This parent is asking, I heard that kids shouldn't mention hardships that they've had on their essays, but the example that you gave was, of course, helpful in you understanding what had happened to this student. How much of that do you want to see from a student's essay about the hardships and difficulties?
I think that that's probably a good conversation to have with your school counselor or your independent education consultant, because the answer is it depends. It depends on what that hardship is. And if you really help the admissions officer understand the context of that student's education, we want to see, does it add context to the environment, not what's the excuse of why you didn't do better.
Okay. Not in your examples, your students didn't have a lot of activities that connected with their major. Is that something that's important to you, or it doesn't really matter if they did something for their activities that's completely relevant to what they say they're going to study?
They're 17 and 18. Like, who knows what they want to do at that point? Like, yes, it's great to see, but it's not a requirement that is going to dictate whether we admit the student or not. What we want to see is some sort of sustained engagement.
Andy, you're great at this lightning round. I've got more if you've got a few more minutes with us. Is it okay if a student is heavily involved in just one activity that they're truly passionate about and they don't do a lot of other things? This is a time-consuming thing. And can you almost also comment on paid jobs and how that's looked upon?
I think it's great if you're just doing the one thing, but you may want to add that in the additional Q&A in the Common App section to explain just how involved you are in that activity and how it's occupying all of your time commitment. Yes, we would love to see multiple activities, but I think if a student says, you know what, I am working to be a world-class tennis player, or I have to work to be able to support my family and to make sure that we can have food and housing, like, that's context that's helpful for us to understand how you're going to do on our campus.
Okay. And outside jobs are looked at in the same way as activities in terms of how your admission staff views them?
It is, yes. And I would encourage that for most admissions offices are looking for that. It shows that how are you spending your time outside the classroom? If that's work, if that's activities, is that student leadership? What does that look like?
Terrific. Parents are confused about the science optional section on the new digital ACT and whether it has any impact on the application. Should they encourage their students to take it, or is it truly optional?
I think if a school says it's optional, you should take it at its word. It does help with, well, the ACT and college of the digital SAT to new ACT format. The best answer is it's too early to tell what kind of impact. So I'm just going to have to take it on that it's pretty much the same. We have interpreted ACTs in the past. I do ACTs because of losing the SAT, but it's going to be on equal footing to what we see in SAT scores.
Can you speak a little bit about applications to honors colleges and how they're evaluated, and if there's anything different you're looking at in those applications?
So we're looking for students that are in the top 10% of our applicant pool that are not necessarily just based off of objective matrix of test scores and GPAs. These are the students that we're going to put up for major national awards, Rhodes scholarships, Udall scholarships, things that the student is really participating in and are really considered one of the best students at their high school. Other institutions use their honors programs to really as an incentive to try and enroll students with higher academics. But for our institution, we're looking at who is the top 10% of our applicant pool.
Okay. Parents are curious about whether you look at dual enrollment in any different way than AP classes. Do you prefer one or the other? Do you consider one more rigorous than the other, or are they comparable?
I'm going to try and give an answer that I think is ubiquitous across institutions. Do not take college algebra as a dual enrollment class. It has the least amount of direct transfer into institutions. If you have the choice between between taking college algebra or pre-calc, I would prefer to see a dual enrollment pre-calc class. There are some institutions that will prefer that if an AP class is available at the institution, that student take the AP class at their high school rather than going somewhere else and taking the dual enrollment class.
Okay. Parents asking, when you have a very average student, what can they do to stand out? And you mentioned that there are loads and loads of schools. How do we begin to find those schools that are sort of less visible and not in the news and that sort of thing?
Mhm. I think high schools are doing a great job of having someone dedicated to the college search process, so typically called a college counselor, that spends the majority of their time learning about these institutions. They're not all Michigan State, Indiana, large land grant flagship type institutions. There are some really great private, small liberal arts colleges that your school counselor will have a good sense for and would be able to say, you know what, given your academic credentials, I think you would be a good fit here, not only just academically, but socially. Like they're going to have a good sense for what those institutions might be. So I would say set up a meeting with your counselor, set up a meeting with your independent education consultant to see like, well, what do you
Andy, I'm going to let you go, but everybody wants to know who gets admitted and who does not get admitted.
that's the
We're all
great part.
invested in these 3 students.
It's hard. It's actually when we've been doing this activity on campus, and there's actually 5 scenarios, and it is amazing that across the University of Georgia, the different divisions, whether we're talking to IT or to our Marcom team, everybody's picking different people. And these are composites of real students. They are not actual students. So I can't really tell you we admitted this student or we wouldn't admit this student. The truth is that we would, in certain scenarios, admit all 5 of them, in this case, all 3. But there are things that we're trying to balance, and it's never just one thing that we're looking for. So unfortunately, there's not a right answer here, but I wanted you to struggle with, well, which one do we admit? If we can only pick one, which one is it's going to be? Because that is the reality of college admissions right now.
And finally, the answer to the question all of you are asking, and I should have said it when we began, is you will get the recording tomorrow, and the slides are in the recording because I know some of you would like to read it more closely, and you'll get that opportunity. Andy, thank you so much for this. This was incredibly helpful. I think everyone learned so much, and we really appreciate your time.
Thanks for the invite. I know that it's a lot of time commitment to carve out some of your nights to do these webinars, and I've always appreciated when we can have some Q&A back and forth. So thanks for the invite. And if I could convey one thing, it's going to be okay. Many parents have gone before you and said, what if they don't get in? What if they don't have an option? And somehow it all works out in the end. The same will be true for you and your student. Like they will end up at a great place that they're going to love because you're doing your homework to learn about this process now.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody who joined us tonight. Good night.